Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. The UWI Football Club has withdrawn from the inaugural Jamaica Premier League, which is due to begin on Saturday. Chairman and Director of Professional Football Jamaica Limited, Donovan White, made the announcement at a media briefing earlier on Thursday.
The only update I can give at this point is that we have been advised that the team has opted out of this year's staging of the competition. Any further questions as to the reasons for that, I would suggest to the media that those questions be directed directly to UAFC, the University of the West Indies, Principal and or the Dean of Sports, and or as it relates to any sanctions that will accrue, that would be the responsibility of the JFF under the rules and regulation of the competition. In addition to the new announcement of curfew times, a review of the fixtures, obviously, because now we'll have, instead of 6 games per weekend, we'll have 5, which means that there'll be one team that has a bye week each week, which you know we have been very dynamic about our thinking, and you know, whilst we would have loved to have UFC in the competition, you know, the fact that they have made that decision, we've had to move on and continue, because the show must go on. We have spent a lot of time planning and working together on this, and we are not going to be derailed at this point in time.
Donovan White there, Chairman and Director of Marketing of the Jamaica Football Premier League, Jamaica, and President of the Jamaica Football Federation, Michael Ricketts, says action may be taken against the UWI, and I think he had something to say about that, George, but it does stand to reason that, you know, given the UWI's late decision here and the way they went about it, some sanctions could be on the cards.
Yeah, you know, this situation is a bad one, I think, for several of the, I want to call them mini stakeholders in the whole footballing project at the UWI, because what will happen is that the university will not elucidate on the reasons for the withdrawal. So because they will not give detailed information, there will be speculation to take the place of that detailed, correct information. And so you'll have several theories running. But here's the thing, here's what I know from the top. Withdrawing the team from the competition can't be good for the players involved. It can't be good for those who would have managed the team, nor would it have been good for those who were tasked with coaching the team. And the UWI have been very organized since coming into the league in 2015-16. Also, when you consider that I can't accept that the UWI, so cash-strapped. Look, we know that these are difficult times for tertiary institutions and institutions all around, yeah? And the UWI's reputation is lofty, and so it has to marshal its resources to ensure that its educational pursuits continue to get adequate funding so it can continue to be world-class in those areas that it is world-class in, that there's no argument around that. But guess what? There are teams, plans from struggling communities in Jamaica that are managing to keep a team on the football field. The UWI's name is arguably the most prestigious. The UWI's name is the most prestigious of all of the other teams, of the teams in the Premier League, because the UWI is a brand like no other. Arnett Gardens is a brand only associated with football. Waterhouse the same, Portmore United the same. The UWI is a globally recognized brand. There's a stamp of quality that the UWI has that all of the other 11 teams would kill to have. So the UWI has that. So I'm saying, with that in hand, if other teams who are only associated with football in the small sphere of their community or in Jamaica more broadly can manage to keep the ship afloat, why couldn't the UWI do it? Was there any serious concerted effort to do so? And that's my disappointment, because I struggle to accept that the UWI, with the name that it can trade on, couldn't have marshaled those resources to be able to get a football team going this season. And Lance, I was saying this to you in the SportsMax Zone room. The UWI and all the other teams have the cushion of knowing that they can't be relegated from the league this season, nor can they be relegated next season. So they've given them a feather bed to land in, and with all those factors considered and concerned, you can't field a team. It suggests to me that the university did not want to put a team there for other reasons.
Yeah, you know what, George, even last year when they were declining in their results and, you know, there was a definite fall off in the performance of the team, The inside stories had suggested that as a grouping, they were losing interest in the Premier League, losing interest in the sort of enthusiasm that they had for the league, which was a little surprising to hear from that standpoint. And given what has happened now in the last week, I have to say that I am agreeing with you that I don't think we're getting the full story here, and the UWI appears as if it is looking elsewhere in its sports program and not towards the Jamaica Premier League.
Yeah, and as I said to you cheekily at the top of the show, I'm almost certain that were it cricket, we wouldn't be here having this discussion about the UWI withdrawing from the Premier Cricket competition in the land. The UWI can do better, has to do better, especially by the students and former students who are eligible under the UWI's rules to represent the team in the Premier League. And so you can't, look, when we talk about the funding from the public purse and the governments around the Caribbean who fund the UWI, yes, it's easy for people to say, oh, but you get funding from these governments, so why can't you fund the team? It's not as easy as that. And remember, the UWI's raison d'etre is to educate students, it's to break ground in research, it's to continue to do the things that has made the institution an educational giant in the region and has seen it pop up and own a place on the radar of the international universities. That's its first order of business. But I'm saying, are you telling me that Cavaliers Football Club would not love to have the brand recognition that the UWI does, will not have to have the international brand recognition that the UWI does, to be able to approach a partner to say, okay, in exchange for this amount of funding, we propose to do this with you together. Yeah? Look, you know my marketing mind again, and you know how we see things. I'm saying this until there is a detailed explanation, which I know won't come because, you know, some people in certain positions believe that it is beyond them, beneath them to explain themselves when they do certain things. Their actions are beyond explaining to the plebs, yeah? I'm saying we won't get an explanation, and but I remain disappointed that the UWI has taken this decision because it needn't have come to this with proper planning and organization.
Yes, and several of the student athletes representing the UWI in the Premier League were actually on scholarships and are on a subsidized tuition at that tertiary institution. Anyhow, the Jamaica Football Federation president, Michael Ricketts, has spoken to the possibility of sanctions against them.
I can't share the details right now, but certainly the competitions is guided by rules and regulations. The competitions department will now deal with that aspect of it. So we're waiting patiently on the competitions to make recommendations to the JFF as it relates to maybe fines and sanctions relating to the very late withdrawal of UA.
Yeah, so President Ricketts very careful in his words there, George, but because of the stipulations and the guidelines in the tournament, we have to think that the UWI will pay some price.
Yeah, and as you correctly said, we got this strong sense in the last campaign that we had that the UWI's footballing program was a pumpkin that was dying on the vine. It was in serious need of attention, urgent need of attention, and you just got the impression that it was turned out to pasture. If it found grass, fine. If it found water, fine. If it got tick medicine or whatever it is, fine. Nobody was paying it any mind. And now we're getting this decision. It's not good enough for the foremost educational institution in the Caribbean and perhaps in this part of the world. The UWI ought to do better. You can't go through so much to get a seat at football's high table in Jamaica and then you throw it away by having several months, 14 months to prepare for the Premier League's restart. And the UWI is coming now, days before the start. When I say days, I don't mean weeks. About 3 or so days before the start of the competition to tell the organizers that, oh, we're sorry, we're not coming forward. It's unacceptable. Very much unacceptable.
Yeah. The withdrawal of the UWI team forcing organizers, George, to rejig the fixtures for the opening weekend. The UWI were scheduled to have an opening game on Saturday, and as it stands now, they aren't in. And the Jamaica Premier League has presented new fixtures for Saturday's opening. Mount Pleasant against Tivoli at 1 o'clock. Cavalier against Cumberland at 3:30. That's 4:30 Eastern Caribbean time. And on Sunday, just one game now. There were scheduled to be 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday, and 2 games on Monday. So Sunday's lone game now will be Portmore, the reigning champions, against fellow St. Catherine team done beholden. That's an 11 o'clock start, 11 a.m. I'm sure, 12 noon. And Monday's fixture will be Veer United against Malines at 1 and Waterhouse against Harbourview at 3:30. So those are the new fixtures for the start of the Jamaica Premier League Round 1. Mount Pleasant Tivoli at 1 will start the campaign for 2021. And George, we're anxious to see that. Mount Pleasant against Tivoli is a hot one. Mount Pleasant, I think, given their preparation and the construct of their football club, may be the best placed team to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they reported undercooked. I expect them to be just right. Yeah, you put the thermometer in and yeah, it was cooked to the right temperature. That's what I expect Mount Pleasant to be on opening day. Tivoli, I haven't heard much from the camp in terms of the preparation. What I know is that they've lost some influential players, as have the established clubs in the competition. And I'm keen to see how they get on this Tivoli. It's a new era of sorts for almost all of the teams. Well, usually you pick a few teams and say, well, this team is turning a new page. It's a new cycle for this team. I think we can say it's a new era for everybody in the league this year, given the circumstances attending to this inaugural Premier League. Tivoli, though, will be different from the Tivoli we've seen in the past, where there are established players on the verge of national selection, players who've done well for the national team in the past and are giving back to the team by being a part of the setup. That's not, I don't think that will be the descriptor that you'd apply to Tivoli this season. So I'm keen to see how they get on. But I expect Mount Pleasant to be very, very good, hitting the ground running, and I expect them to be very much one of the strong teams, if not the strongest in this first round of the competition.
You said Tivoli losing influential players, but we could say influential figures as well, George, because in the past few years they have lost Edward Philip George Siaga, who was the engine room of that Tivoli Gardens team, and we know how his absence from the Tivoli football program has been felt.
Yes, and it brings into a question again. People talk about succession planning. It's the easy thing to say, oh, there wasn't any succession planning. But many times you have projects where there is a mastermind, and that mastermind tries to wean others in on how to get the job done in their absence. People's heads are tough, Lance. And I'm not saying that Tivoli doesn't have anybody to fall into the slipstream of what was left by Edward Philip George Siaga, but I'm just saying that it will take some time for them to have the imprint on the club as he had for several decades. And Tivoli looking for an identity right now, as you rightly said. People off the field have gone influential, and people influential on the field have gone. Yes. It's a new day for Tivoli.
Yeah. Meanwhile, CVM Television has been announced as SportsMax's free-to-air broadcast partner in the Jamaica Premier League, as we said, kicking off this weekend with 2 games on Saturday, 1 game on Sunday, and a double header on Monday as well. And the Saturday fixtures will start off, as we said, with that Mount Pleasant game against Tivoli, which, as we said, will be live on SportsMax.
Can we tell the viewers as well that the difference with the CVM TV coverage this year is that you'll be seeing our guys on the broadcast. So it's not a situation where they're taking our pictures, our images of the game and adding their own commentary, their own analysis. What you will get is the SportsMax broadcast in full. So that's a new thing for this Premier League. CVM's broadcast will just be a simulcast, a broadcast rather, of what we are doing on SportsMax. That's what you're going to be seeing if you're in Jamaica watching.
Yes, and Donovan White explains the free-to-air partner for SportsMax on this project.
Our broadcast partners. SportsMax is our host broadcaster, so they are responsible for the production of all Jamaica Premier League matches. That's an arrangement we have with them, which is an exclusive arrangement. And SportsMax, working in tandem with CVM Television, will also provide free-to-air broadcast of the games in the Jamaica Premier League.
Yeah, well, that decision was made pretty late. We know, George, that for the past few months after knowing that SportsMax had secured the host broadcasting rights, there was that issue of the free-to-air partner, and now it's become official.
Yeah, and we hope to have a strong partnership with the folks at CVM TV, sharing the football all around. It's good when you have a regional partner like SportsMax, because we can tell the viewers the Premier League is big stuff in the rest of the Caribbean outside Jamaica, and our Jamaican friends will be able to enjoy it on CVM, and those outside will be able to enjoy it on the home of champions.
Yeah, that's for sure. We'll have more on the SportsMax Zone coming up, including the NBA and some pretty hot stuff happening last night Back with more in a moment.